efficiently, effectively delivered about the need for this togetherness. The need for this togetherness to fight for people's will to be respected. That is what this is about. And don't forget, Ugandans, that Mr. Museveni must win 50% of the vote plus one to be declared a winner. In other words, more than half of all valid votes cast must be in the name of Mr. Museveni for him to be declared a winner. So it doesn't matter whom you vote for, provided you guard the vote so that Mr. Museveni does not have 50% of voters casting a vote in his favor. He will be out of office. And if he wants to stick, that is also what our togetherness is here for, to make sure that any unconstitutional extension of his mandate is stopped. We must do everything within our power to stop any unconstitutional extension of his office. So some people sometimes tend to get discouraged when they see the forces of change not presenting one person, but that is not the most critical thing, because it is the other one who must win 50%. And so regardless of these, and that's the wonderful thing about togetherness, because if Mr. Museveni failed to win 50%, it means immediately all these would rally behind whoever has the highest vote. Untold obstacles, unbelievable obstacles that have been erected along their paths of expressing their readiness to offer leadership, they have weathered all those storms up to the end of this campaign. The terror that has been meted out on these candidates is frankly unprecedented. I have been a candidate 4 times. And, well, I have seen many moments of deja vu, where I have been before. But there were also moments that I hadn't experienced in the previous election. So the violence, terror, it seems to be scaled up every coming election. And that is, I believe, not surprising, because the lower the support of the regime goes, the more they replace it with repression and violence. So this election has witnessed untold violence. This was not about COVID. Make no mistake about this, because the regime is not worried about COVID at all, actually. If you go downtown and see how people are gathered in markets and in all kinds of crowds that are milling around town, uninterfered with and regulated, you'll know that this is not about COVID. Indeed, even during this very campaign, the crowds of those associated with the regime were never interfered with. It was only an attempt to stopping these gentlemen to get and the other candidates who are not here, to get to the voters and to pass on their message. So really, I congratulate all of you upon this heroic exercise that you are emerging through. We've seen in this particular election a presidential candidate having to campaign putting on a flak jacket, and helmets. If Mr. Museveni stays in office by the next election, one of the prerequisites to be a presidential candidate will be to certainly procure some kind of an armored trucks from which you can pull out your head in a bulletproof helmet to be able to say anything.
Casting a vote to elect your leaders is your democratic right. Turning up to a polling station is your democratic duty. And so my call this morning to all fellow Ugandans of voting age and registered to do so is for them to turn up in their numbers like never before as a way to disapprove the dictator and to ensure that we have a new political order in this country. Casting a vote by itself is an expression of your desire to have a leader elected to lead you for the next 5 years under our Constitution. I would like to say to our electorate that without determining the kind of leader that you want to lead you in the next 5 years, you would have failed in your democratic duty. Secondly, casting a vote by itself alone is not a panacea for the person you prefer, your preferred candidate, to be elected. And therefore, I would like to call on fellow Ugandans to turn up again and stand very strong in the protection of their democratic right by turning what would be a mere piece of paper to something that can be of a consequence to the kind of governance they are going to go through during this particular period.
We've been unfortunate as a country. In the last 58 years, we've never had any peaceful change. Our deepest desire, even as we participate in this electoral process, is to have an opportunity as a country for once to see change through peaceful means, through an election. We've got an incumbent that is almost doing everything, putting all the plans to hang on to power. For the last 60 days or so, we've gone around the country talking to our people, encouraging them to participate in this process. And in this collaborative effort, our desire still is to appeal to the Ugandan people to turn up in large numbers, because the regime has been doing a number of things, basically to discourage people from voting, because they know it is to their advantage when there's a low voter turnout. We as the forces of change recognize that the higher the numbers of the Ugandan people who come out and vote, the higher the possibility of putting off peaceful change for the first time through an electoral process. We recognize the problems that are within the environment in which we operate. And at the time, any incumbent who desires to hang on to power, they always use force, as they've done. They manipulate the electoral process. The Electoral Commission has noticed the pressures which are exerted onto it, the use of money and all other things that they are doing. So first, whatever you see as the Ugandan people, let not all the problems that you notice discourage you from going into that polling station and voting for change. That's the purpose that we believe us coming together, that can communicate to you, the Ugandan people, that it is our responsibility to do everything humanly possible